Hey there, Taurus. Let's have a look at the week ahead. We're going from the full moon in Aries right the way through to the moon's third quarter phase. That's as the moon goes into Cancer and we're softening into wisdom. So we're starting all guns blazing and moving into this softening wisdom, which I really like. Now, in this week ahead, Venus, your ruling planet, is in a bit of a bind. I mean, there's some great stuff and some more challenging stuff. In particular, one of the things I like is the sextile between her and Jupiter. That's really going to be helpful for you. And also, she is coming into an opposition with Saturn and Neptune, an exact one with Saturn, in fact. And that's likely to bring up some repeating themes of self-worth issues and like, where do you belong? And so there's a lot going on. Anyway, what I would like to do with this, and this is an ascendant forecast, this is using whole sign Western tropical models. What I really would like this to be is the possibility of feeling good in yourself. That's always my focal point as I'm looking at these. And I really see that this is about aligning, having the permission to align to what is unfolding for you on a planetary basis. So let's see what's coming up. My name's Louisa, if you're new to this channel, by the way. So hello from Portugal, where I'm sat right now. Before I go any further, I just want to say thank you to everybody that supports my channel in all the different multitudes of ways that you do. I really, really appreciate that. It's really nice that you recognize what I do and like it. And, you might be helping me and supporting me with my membership where I do additional forecasts, but thank you so very much for everything. I really appreciate you. So this is my big question that I'm going to be answering by the end of this session. It's like, where in my life do I need to stop waiting for permission and start acting from self-trust? It's definitely, when I was thinking about like these themes for the week ahead, I was really zeroing in on this opposition between Jupiter and Pluto. So it's not just, this permission versus self-trust. It's not just a message for this week. I do see it as a much deeper thing going on, for many months, in fact, until the end of the year. But, with Pluto and Jupiter in a square to Chiron, and then you've got Mercury coming in, being this like fourth part of this grand square. And it's called a grand square, but there's nothing grand feeling about it. It just feels kind of tight. But this is where the full moon is on the 7th. It's activating your 12th house, which is all about your unconscious awareness. This is a very, very psychic place to have the full moon. So most likely your spidey senses are really, really tingling right now. Most likely you're feeling into a lot of things. And it can feel quite overwhelming because the 12th house is this huge sort of unconscious mind place where, you can shine the light into the unconscious and you'll see one specific thing, but there's millions of things, millions of feelings, thoughts, behaviors. There's all sorts of things in the sort of storehouse of your mind. And the moon cannot focus on it all at once. And so you might be feeling something, but not shining the light on it. So it can feel a bit confusing. My advice at the start of the week is definitely to be patient with yourself. And, if you can't put your finger on something, don't throw out the feeling as unimportant just because you can't define what it is that you might be feeling. It's likely to be raw. With Aries in this part of the chart, it's likely to feel quite challenging and bring up some real sort of visceral emotions. So don't throw it out, honor it. If you're feeling that something's not quite right and you can't define it or put your finger on it, it's still valid. And so, sit with it or write it down and move away from it and do something else. So you're not forgetting about it, that you can go back to it when you've got the right feeling of buoyancy or lightness, or when you're feeling rested and ready to look at something. But again, don't dismiss what you're feeling as unimportant or not relevant. There will be something that's very highly relevant as to why stuff is coming up. You'll probably find around the time of the full moon that your dreams go into hyperdrive because, the full moon in the 12th house is a time when everything to do with the unconscious sort of explodes. And of course, the sign of Aries is the most explosive sign. So go easy on yourself. And it's kind of interesting because you might get themes that unpick at the sort of practical material reality that you're experiencing right now. So, you know, the sign of Libra, and having the sun in Libra right now, the sun's very good at doing a PR job in the sign of Libra. And there's probably loads of people that watch this, you know, that do have their sun in Libra and actually do have a PR job, but that's aside. But, you know, the sun in Libra is so good at putting a gloss on things and seeing the good in things and kind of sitting on the fence a little bit and not fully seeing both sides of a picture. And so this full moon, and I always think of the full moon not just on the day of the exact full moon, but like the day before the full moon and the day after, because it's still very full in the sky. It will still keep you up at night if you haven't got these, you know, heavy dark blinds. But this full moon energy is going to be uncovering the bits that are hidden with the Libran gloss. So yeah, there's some deep stirring stuff going on. Now, on the time of the full moon as well, we've got Mercury in a square to Pluto. Now, Mercury and Mars are currently in your 7th house. And so I do think there's the desire to talk a lot more with the people around you and to be a lot more active with the people around you, in particular your loved one. But in this square to the top, it feels, you know, with Pluto right at the top of your chart in this place of authority, you may well feel that the communications you're having with the people around you either feels like they're the authority or you're being pushed into an authority position. And so there's an imbalance. You know, there's no lightness or freedom in these conversations where it feels like one person's in charge and the other isn't. And I don't know how you've got it working right now, like who's in charge, who's not. But wherever that level of in chargeness exists, it's counterproductive in terms of, and counterintuitive for the safety and security of your relationships. Anywhere where there's a power struggle, it's going to be illuminated, especially at the beginning of this week. Now, as we go through the week, you know, Mercury and Mars are coming out of this square to Pluto, and they're connecting into connecting into a lovely trine energy with the North Node, which I think is great, and connecting in to the moon as it's coming into this third quarter moon phase on the 13th. And so it's great. To me, it feels like things are starting to move forwards in terms of your relationships. There's a much nicer flow, and you're coming out of that dynamic of who's in charge and who's underneath the person that's in charge. One of the things I like about this, and this is you know, your ruler, I mentioned her at the start. So at the start of this week, she's already coming into this opposition with Saturn, and Saturn and Venus in an opposition is uncomfortable. I've got that in my birth chart. And, you know, it really shows us where our own feelings of self-worth and belonging come up into question. Now, with Saturn currently in your 11th house to do with friendships, and then you, like all the sort of simplicity, the sort of innocence of life showing up in the 5th. Right now, it could feel like just by being yourself and enjoying the things that you're passionate about, it feels like people around you are strong and saying, oh, why would you be doing that? You need to do this with me. You know, so people almost looking at your spontaneity, looking at your freshness, and trying to control your freshness by saying, oh, no, it's much better to do it with me. You know, it's always much more fun when you do things with other people, and kind of trying to, I don't want to say manipulate, because that's a really strong word, but it feels like you're not given any freedom to express things yourself. Now, is that other people are denying it, or are you somehow involved in this? You know, is there a part of you that naturally feels like it's wrong or selfish to follow what lights you up? And there's no problem if that is, you know, one of your unconscious programs, because I think we've all been seeded with that one, that it's selfish to get on with the things that you enjoy doing. But if there's one outcome in this week ahead that could really help you, it would be to understand that when you're lit up, when you're doing things that are lighting you up and engaging in things that feel fresh and feel spontaneous and feel enlivening, you're actually doing the world a massive favor. You know, you're actually seeding those energies of freshness and joy and satisfaction. And we can all benefit from that. So please do go about being your fresh self. So, you know, as we go to the end of the week, if you can cope with that, or if you recognize that coming in, think, no, I want to stick to my freshness. And, it might just be that you need a killer phrase, not to like kill anyone, obviously, but like a phrase that will stop that thought pattern in progress. So for instance, if somebody says, what are you doing with that? You should be out here doing this. This is much more meaningful, or it's much better to do things with other people. If you've got this kind of survival phrase, this one that asserts your boundaries, asserts your joy, and just lets people know that you'll reconnect with them when you feel right. But right now you're following what is lifting you up. That's the kind of thing you need to have on hand, or you might choose to have on hand. So for instance, I might say something like, you know what, right now I'm committed to my joy and to unfolding the things that feel great. And right now what feels great is to follow this. I have to follow my instinct. It is my moral compass. And when I feel like it's time to reconnect with you, I'll be straight back in contact. Don't you worry. Something like that allows you to feel that you are able to just kind of hold them and say, no, right now it has to be my joy that I'm following. So yeah, to me, that's a bit of a theme. Now, Venus in a sextile to Jupiter is also lovely. It's coming in right from the start of the week, and it will be persisting beyond the week. We'll still be having echoes of that. But it takes me back to the 12th of August when we had the conjunction between Venus and Jupiter. That Venus and Jupiter conjunction really showed you where you might like to feel a sense of comfort and success and belonging. It was taking place in your third house, really showing that now is the time to get a better sense of belonging, but also how you're belonging in your community and around the people that you love. And so it may well be that for you to feel that sense of belonging, you also need to be committed to what lifts you up and committed to the things that feel in alignment with you. And that when you're getting dragged into things that don't feel aligned to what's important to you, or where you feel like people are using guilt or shame or belittlement or social contagion, all of those kinds of things, social pressure, social acceptance, to try and get you to toe their line rather than follow what your alignment is suggesting. To me, this is an ongoing thing. The next Venus and Jupiter conjunction will also be in Cancer, and I think that's June or July of next year. And so you're getting another go at it. But to me, right now, one of the things that you're learning in life is that sense of how can I feel comfort in myself, and how can I follow my alignment, even if my local community is trying to get me to do something else. So that kind of brings out all of those themes. Now, I just want to go over this question that I came up with at the start. Where in my life do I need to, and I think we may have answered this already, but anyway, where in my life do I need to stop waiting for permission and start acting from self-trust? Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. This sense of self-trust, this sense of knowing what's in your alignment, knowing what's right for you, where to put your energy. To me, that is in acknowledging where your alignment is, that is your permission. And so if anyone tries to get you to deviate from what you know to be true for yourself, that's your red flag. And you don't have to treat it like a red flag, because I think a lot of people use guilt, shame, blame and anger. They use it very carelessly and thoughtlessly. They might not even be consciously aware. So you might have a helpful phrase. I've used this quite a lot in my time. I think I got it from, oh God, what's he called? Brian Tracy from these podcasts from it almost feels like 100 years ago, but like from many decades ago when I was in my 20s listening to this. But I remember one particular episode where he was talking about guilt, that there are guilt throwers and guilt catchers. And, people will often take a few goes at trying to throw guilt at you and hope that you'll catch the guilt. And so you might just say, it feels like you're trying to make me feel guilty. It feels like you're putting guilt on me. And like if you say it with all earnestness and really clearly, it feels like you're trying to make me feel guilty. Is that what you're doing? Immediately someone will say, absolutely not. No way. How dare you say that? And then they'll come at it again from another perspective. They'll try and put guilt on you. And you say, oh my God, did you just do that again? You're trying to make me feel guilty for wanting to follow my alignment. Because it's important. Lots of people, when they're doing these underhand things, they don't know they're underhand. They're just following the scripts that they've learned and have been passed down from their own guilt catchers and guilt throwers in their family lineup. You know, guilt is the gift that keeps on giving. And, you know, right now I see that you're stopping it. It's like you're no longer a guilt catcher. You're it's like you're guilt Teflon. you have that Teflon kind of energy that can't capture guilt. It's time for you to let go of that, you know, that guilt game. And so just by identifying it, if someone tries this on you a few times, and every time they try it on you, you point it out, you call it out and say, are you trying to do this to me? They'll get bored of it, and they'll just start moving their guilt throwing to other people. You know, they'll leave you alone because it's just too hard, and they might be a bit offended, might be a bit upset, but you will have more space for yourself. And I think it's really important. It will open up some conversations anyway, and when they are ready to have a good conversation about it, where you can unpack it and unpick it, it could actually be the thing that saves or transforms your relationship. But it does work with other emotions as well. Like, are you trying to make me feel whatever it is, like ashamed or embarrassed? It's all. There are so many different like tricks and tools that people will use quite unconsciously. So to me, if you're following your joy, you're not asking for permission from other people. And when they start to almost demand that you follow them, that's your opportunity to, in self-trust, assert what is right for you in following your alignment. And if you believed you were enough, what new possibility would you allow yourself to explore? Well, I think you would, once you realise that you can follow what is joyful for you without having to tiptoe around social acceptance, I think that would absolutely bring in so much creativity for you. If you think about it as well, with Pluto in your 10th house and Uranus in your second, like your life is primed to be a little bit more uncomfortable for people as you find your shape, as you find your new originality and start to communicate that in the world. You'll do it so much more easily and profitably, and also gracefully, if you take yourself out of the blame, shame, guilt and embarrassment game. And so that's a really huge possibility for you. So anyway, it's a little bit more than a week, I think. I went a bit deeper. But if that spoke to you, if you like my style of reading into the planets, then you might find my membership on School to be helpful. I do Monday to Friday forecasts. And every week I do a relationship and connection forecast for all 12 signs, and also an ambition, money and career forecast for all 12 signs. So there's a lot there. There's loads more to unpack if you're left wanting more. And, you know, if you want to explore this in a session with me as well, I'm also open to do that. So all you need to do is look into the links below or on my channel page, and you can just book directly into my diary. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. I hope you have a great week ahead. I hope this has spoken to you. And thanks for joining me today. Really, truly hope to catch you next week, and we can share more of this story together and see what's unfolding for you. I think it's going to be good when Venus goes into Libra in her own sign. It's going to be really helpful for you. So lots of love, and catch you next week. Bye for now.